Okay.
Are we already live?
We are live. Welcome, everybody.
Redo, retake, take two, episode 117. We are your co-hosts, Tanya Lee and Johanna Burkhart. So, Johanna, what I think we need to first start off that anyone who tuned in on Thursday night, um, just to know that Johanna is safe.
I was not abducted by aliens.
She was absolutely not abducted at all.
So right before we went on, I got the literally like minutes, about 5 minutes before we went on, I got the knowing that I was going to need to have a lot of patience if this was going to work. And I actually knew there was a good chance that it wasn't going to work. But I'm a rebel, and I said I'm gonna roll the dice. We're gonna roll with it. And so, right as we're getting ready to go on, the power went out. And she's like, your power didn't go out. And then it's like on, off, on, off, on, off. I was like, well, now you know it's off. So I said, well, we're just going to roll with it. We're just going to keep going. I'm persevering here. We're going to do it warrior style. So I got all the candles out and we went and we got about halfway through. And then my internet went out. and I mean, I was hooked up to my hotspot on my phone, on my laptop. And so the LTE towers went out. That my husband came home and popped on the generator. The internet was like out. It wasn't just like able to hook back up. So I wasn't abducted. There was a couple of questions about that. I'm good. I'm here. Just lost some power.
Where is she?
Where'd she go?
And
So
it's
funny.
And before all of this, and we even mentioned it in the last episode, we're keeping the first episode up. If you guys feel guided to watch it, absolutely watch it. There was some really cool stuff that did come out. The audio was a little bit in and out because, at that point we were, Johanna was going through those storms and so forth. But one of the things that we pointed out that, when Johanna said she was going to be a trooper and just do it anyway, and she was absolute trooper, was patience. We're going to need patience tonight. And I was like, what is that about? I was like, what is that about? But I'm like, all right, well, I'm listening to that. And I actually, because I'm typically not, well, I try to be patient, but my first reaction is not to be patient. So I would have been really fighting for it to like figure something out or do that. And when you had said that, it was almost like you made the awareness for me. So when it happened, I was like, you're like, should we cancel it? Should we do this? And I'm like, yeah, it is what it is.
Right. And I actually got the knowing to be patient today too. So, but I think it was more in the fact, my gut feeling immediately was, I think we're going to be talking about the patience more than anything, but it's just an example of, we decided to run this show live and, it didn't work for us when we tried to pre-record, like ever.
Ever. It really never.
But I also feel like this is more of, if you've noticed that, okay, so this is what's coming up now is the authenticity, and people are wanting more raw and real stuff. And so that's, I feel like, part of why we have to do it this way. And that was just, that's real life. This shit happens.
Yeah. And we've also been toying with the idea, and we haven't done it. We haven't done it until now. We've been toying with the idea is, are we picking the right time and the night to be on? And we've been like talking about it, but we never really switched it. And this kind of forced us to do it. Like, all right, well,
it does. Cause we've been curious about the, morning show, like doing a morning show. And Tanya doesn't have that capability yet during the day. I say yet, cause it will happen. But, I agree with her. I feel like the morning is going to be a better time, but it's what we have right now. So we appreciate all of you who follow us and are loyal to us. We really do appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. So Starseeds.
Yes.
All right. Well, we've already talked about this. We're not going to try to recap and recreate what we did Thursday night. It's just is what it is. But we are going to at least, for anyone who's new of like what a starseed is, Johanna's going to give us a little explanation, and then we're going to go dive deep into these starseed characteristics, which we started to do a little bit the night before. But this is really, I feel like we were guided to go over these because I think that's where the meat of it is.
Yeah. Um, so if you guys watched the first one, I channeled the Council of Light. They made their presence known, and that was new for me. Honestly, I'm just gonna be real. That channeling live like that. Normally, I kind of channel them ahead of time because the information, if you're new to channeling, comes in so freaking fast that I kind of got tripped up on my words a little bit. But what I want to share that I'm remembering from that channeling and what I've been told just from communicating with them over and over again is at the core of it, we all are star seeds because we all come from the same source of energy, right? So if we all come from the same source, then we're all star seeds. But the term star seed is really about certain beings being seeded into this human reality to be awakened at a particular time and put on an accelerated path to help humanity as a whole transition from the third D to the fifth D and beyond, and have that remembrance that they are more than their human existence. And the star seed, the ones that are seeded, are really going to they're going to be put through the ringer. They're going to be put through the brunt of it. They're going to be, especially if they're attached, which was me. I was very attached to who I was. But we're gonna move light years ahead of people who have been on this path for 20 years or 30 years, and it's just what it is. And we are here to step into that role of the light worker and really lead the masses, awaken them, get them moving, because humanity and this human race and this game that we're playing right now to help consciousness evolve as a whole, it's needed to keep this existence going. So that's the whole mission of a starseed. We were seeded and awakened, and a lot of us do not feel like we belong in these bodies. So that's pretty much the gist of it.
And a part of this, what they consider a fringe theory, is that part of this whole thing of being a starseed is that when you come back down, you have amnesia. So you're not activated yet. So there's particular things in your life that might happen that will activate it. And that's what had gotten us onto these Starseed characteristics. So we can kind of figure out, and listen, not all of you are going to resonate to this, and some of you are going to resonate to this. Doesn't mean necessarily anything. We just want to bring out some of the things that might come up. And, even as a human, you might feel this stuff. So it's totally normal. But one article I had found, which was a good one, and we're going to post the link in here so that you guys can read these on your own, because we're not going to go over every little detail. But it's an article within the Gaia website by Cara Hebert. But let's go and start going down here and looking at some of these signs, or what starseeds may feel. From a young age, you have an inherent wisdom that usually comes later in life for other people. You've been told you're an old soul, and you agree you feel ancient to the core. Now, I know personally, I have had, in my childhood, I had a friend who I felt we were both old souls. So we would have some of these like ancient wisdom stuff coming out of our mouth. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what two kids like to go for walks and talk about, the meaning of life at 8? But those are some of the things that I resonated when I was reading this. I don't know. Did you feel that way, Johanna, when you were, younger, or did people tell you that you were an old soul?
No, and that's where I think we were talking about on the last episode, is I felt like that was more of the other way around, where it was more of the yogi, because my head was always in the clouds. As a starseed, I always, I always felt like my home was literally up in the stars, and I didn't want anything to do with this reality. And to be honest, life was a struggle. So,
and I believe that's part of like, did you have I had a very vivid imagination. So I had worlds that I would just create in my head, and I would be in those bubbles. I would just be totally in the woods and I would feel like I'm somewhere completely different.
Yeah, well, yes, but mine was a way of avoidance.
Mm.
I created those realities because my physical reality wasn't one that was, and this can happen even if you're not experiencing trauma as a child. But
Right.
I know people who didn't have a bad childhood that still did this. But you know, my child reality wasn't anything. I always wanted to escape it, so I created my own realities. Plus, when talking about vivid imagination, you know, we talked about this too on the last episode a little bit. And that was, you know, I used to see these giant beings in my room as a little girl, this really tall, lengthy, dark silhouettes. And they would just stand in the corner of my room. They wouldn't do anything. They never touched me.
So did you resonate that? Because I didn't see anything light. It was always like dark things, like shadows, that type of stuff. I do recall, like at the foot of my bed. Like I remember that a lot. Or, you know, there's certain things that I was fearful of when I went to sleep. So I'm sure I blocked some stuff out. But I do find that interesting when people say, you know, they see things or something like that, because, you know, and, you know, I don't want to keep saying we recap this in the other episode, but the one thing I had noted was,
but we did.
the one we said we weren't going to do this, yet we're doing it. The one thing that we had noted in there is that, you know, we're always, you know, growing up, you're told, oh, that's just your imagination, or you're just, you know, it's just your imagination. Don't worry about that. But it can be really daunting for a child to not understand the difference about what's imaginary and what's there. And are they really, you know, just because someone's feeding it, whether it's a parent or adult, that doesn't necessarily mean they're right.
Right.
So that's the hard part about it, is like, you know, it's like you want to say they're not open to it at the same time. It's like, you're just, you know, you've been watching too many scary movies, or you've been doing this.
Honestly, I think it's a fear thing on the parents' behalf, right? Because they're just doing the best they can. But you know what I keep hearing right now is that, to talk about just for a second about the fact that it's a dark energy, that it was, you know, that it showed up as dark. When I today, you guys, for those who follow me, know, you know, that I work with galactics, angels, all of it. And, you know, I don't consider myself in that whole dark realm, even though I am a shaman. I'm not afraid of it. But when energy shows up to me, whether it's Archangel Michael or a benevolent being, or I even had Goddess Ayahuasca come up one time, they all show up first as a circular mass of energy when I see it with my physical eyes. So this is my eyes open. That's, I see, you know, ethereally. It shows up as a dark circular mass of just static. It looks like static. It's the best way I can describe it, but it's black. It's like black or electric blue for me. And sometimes they'll show up in a half silhouette. They never seem to have legs and feet, which is always weird to me, but you know, whatever. They have their silhouette, and sometimes I'll see their face and sometimes I won't. But again, it's a dark mass of energy. I think it's just because it's a collection of energy particles together that makes it look like that. So a lot of times I hear people say, oh my God, there's this dark energy. It's dark, dark, dark. Just because that's how conditioned we are.
I know, right? Well,
so they want you to know they're not dark.
No, but that's what I remember seeing, or these, I know I used to always have to have the hall light on. I used to freak if my hall light wasn't on in the house. Like I'd have to have that on. And I was very sensitive to noises, like extremely sensitive to noises. My family, I mean, they can go on and on about some of the jokes, like the smoke detector go off, and I would think it was the end of the fucking world. I would be like, oh, we're going to start dying. But I couldn't deal with the sounds and stuff like that. So it would bring and I had no idea what was happening to me. I was like, why is this like affecting me so much and stuff like that? And, you know, it's, you know, as a parent, you want to be like, it's okay. It's all right.
I was told it was, you know, the boogeyman is not there. You're fine. You're seeing things. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, but that was the one thing. And I always wanted to sleep with my parents because I didn't know who this being was. You know, he didn't change either. He never changed his appearance, his length, where he stood. And, you know, now I know what it was. But when you're little and again, she said it, you know, you have this amnesia, you go to sleep.
Yeah. Did you ever have an imaginary friend, Johanna?
Not that I remember. I have a lot of my childhood is still very blacked out. The only things I remember about when it comes to similar or spiritual or out of body dimensional, multidimensional experiences is I have the gift of, and you have, I think Tana, you have this too. But it's actually part of my main mission, which is omniscience and omnipresence. So that means I can be in multiple places at one time and can see in multiple places at one time. It's very much a God-like energy. But when I was a kid, I didn't know what the hell was happening to me. So I would have these moments where I was standing there and I would feel like, in the movies when the person's standing there and the whole world's going by them day and night, I would feel like everything around me was going in fast forward and I was in slow motion.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that's omniscience. And so I would stand there and I hated it because I didn't know how to get out of it. And they would come on random times and everybody thought I was crazy. And now I know what it was, because when it happens now, I very much enjoy it. But as a child, I was like, what is happening to me?
Well, I have a little bit of so with me, I'm a writer and I have kept a journal since I was 7. So it's interesting for me to be able to go back to look at some of the stuff that, I wrote about, or I was like, well, wait, what is this about?
That's a really gift you gave
yourself.
Yourself.
It really is. It's a huge gift. And it's something that I've been talking about, even my own vlogging about, going back in the vault and bringing stuff up, because, it's almost like I feel like I'm in the Matrix sometimes when I go through stuff. And, some people are like, oh, that's too woo, or that. I'm like, no, this actually makes me feel more at home knowing that there wasn't something wrong with me, because that's what I always felt. I felt like something was wrong with me. Like, like I was like, what?
I did too.
So to be able to have that, like, like that, that just relieved me big times. And so it's so much healing that has gone about because I've been able to do this. And I actually have to thank my dad for that, because he was the one who gave me my journal, and he used to be like, go upstairs and write your journal. Just go and write your journal. But I'm so thankful he did that.
I know. I wish I would have. I mean, I journal a lot now, but I never journaled when I was a kid. And I wish I would have, because there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. But coming back to the old soul thing, I think another way of saying this that would resonate more with myself anyway, and it might resonate with other people, is because sometimes we just have to rephrase the way that someone puts something. And that is not necessarily old soul, but maybe you just know things that probably you're too young to know, or that you don't think you should know. And someone will say, oh, she's an old soul. Maybe you just are tapped into your source, and you just.
That's a good point.
My son is 12 years old, and the kid's a walking freaking encyclopedia. And I don't know where the hell he learns. I mean, some of this stuff, I'm like, I don't even know how you know this. And that's it right there.
Yeah.
That's another way of putting it.
And I, for people who work with children and so forth, I'm sure that they see this too, where a kid says something so profound, and, because they are not conditioned in society yet. So sometimes they just say things that are so black and white of what it is. Like, they'll just be blunt about it. And it can be so like there's just so much like, that's what it is. Like, that's how they feel, or so forth. So I always, children and me, I feel very connected to children because of that, because it's like, I learned so much from children,
Oh, yes. They're here to be our teachers. Like that that's something that Master Metatron has said over and over again, that our children are here to be our mirrors. And just because you don't have children, if there's a child that is present in your family and life that you are connected to, there's a good chance that child is your mirror. So, I mean, they are here to really reflect back, because they're so damn innocent. They're just like, they're just going to pull in and go back out. It's going to be like, this is what you're doing, and that's it. I mean, I love kids that they just tell it like it is. They're like my favorite.
Mine too. Them and animals. All right. So the next one, and this is where we left off. You often feel morally superior to others, regardless of education or social stature. I disagreed with this. I don't feel that way. Johanna said she didn't either. We were like, no, we're always learning. We don't feel superior over anyone. Then I can see where, if you are Starseed, I'm just from a different perspective. I can see that knowing too much information on something where the ego can really fight on there and come through, because they're like, I like not finding any enjoyment because you're wanting to try to get a message off and getting frustrated because no one's understanding you. I can kind of see that. but I don't know if it's a superiority thing or if it's just more ego driven.
It's ego
That
driven.
that they're fighting with, you know.
Yeah, it's ego driven because the truth of the matter is, if the more anchored you become into something, the more fluid and easy it is for you to describe to somebody, right? Because
Mhm.
when you're anchored into something, you should be able to describe it to a kindergartner what's happening. And then the other part of that is with star seeds, if you're really the perspective I've been given from when I first began communicating with them, especially with the Palladians, is there is no right or wrong. There is only opportunity and possibility. And even ascended masters and angels, they're all still filtering through some aspect of their own consciousness. There is still some type of filter. That's why so many people can be channels. There's why so many people can what my mission here and to teach, I'm not alone. There's many other people out there doing the same thing and have the same exact mission, but we all do it through a different filter, just a little bit, enough to tweak our audience and our language and our energy. And so I disagree with that statement as well. It doesn't resonate for me.
Yeah. So here's one. You feel different from those around you. However, you have a natural inclination to relate to their struggles. I think that's part of being an empath, right? I mean, like,
I think that's part about being on a spiritual awakening. I think a lot of these are just signs that you're awake.
you're awake. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is true. We'll see if there's anything different that comes in here, but we'll I mean, that's why we're breaking this list down, because everybody has different variations of what that means on there. Your physical body is an enigma to doctors. It functions differently than everyone else's, and the medical world struggles to understand it. This may manifest itself in ways as small as a lower than average body temperature or inability to withstand heat.
Again, this is awakening. Now with a
Yeah.
star seed, I will tell you that you're going to feel these energy shifts more intently, and you're going to go through probably more body dysmorphia as your physical body catches up to your energy body on this path, especially in the first few years of your awakening. But in general,
Yeah.
from my experience, and I'm sure Tanya has her own stories about this, when you wake up and you realize the all dis-ease in your body manifests first from the emotional body,
Yeah.
you can understand why doctors can't find a physical reasoning behind. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want to go down that hole, but I'm just saying, I feel like that's more of a spiritual awakening.
There are some things in those characteristics that can bring on the star seeds. I know that because I did my own research when I was looking up the race of Blu-ray, which is what I resonated with. And the thing about the Blu-rays is they're transmuters. And so some of the signs and things came up was physical in your physical body, like autoimmune disease and so forth like that.
I'm a
And that's
transmuter, though.
well, that was just some of the signs, and you related to some of that. I actually sent that to you, God, I think last year when we're going through that. You're like, look at this. I was
I
like,
thought I was a Blu-ray too, but
yeah,
what I think we'll have, I most resonate with the Palladian and Lemurians. Those are the ones that I've had. So I know we're going to get into this, but this is what is coming through, and I don't want to lose it. So we all have had multiple lifetimes in different races. The one that we resonate as our origin is going to be the one we spent the most lifetimes in, and that type of energy. So for me, it's going to be Palladian and Lemurian, kind of like maybe even a hybrid of the two between. So that's another thing that they were saying, was that a lot of people want to know their origin. My actual origin, I had somebody do it. I don't know if it was correct, but she had, where my original was with a planet I'd never even heard of in a star system. But I've spent the most lifetimes in the Pleiadian Lemurian, and that's why I have the closest connection with them overall over anybody else. But it's an interesting perspective to bring in.
You are incredibly intelligent, but bored easily by traditional academics.
True.
I can agree with that. I actually was not a great student, but most of it's because it's not that I didn't want to put that effort in there. I just didn't see the point of it. So I
Right.
had a lot of that kind of attitude. However, in college, I did great because I was able, in college is different. Like you pick your own electives and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I really blossomed in college versus high school and younger. I wasn't there. Like I was just a poor student in that sense, unless it was something to do with creativity or like the meaning of life. Like if you put I don't know. And it's funny because now I go back and I go, man, why am I so into history now? And I couldn't get into it when I was younger, or,
Yeah.
I do kick myself on certain things on there, but I mean, it is something that I do relate to as well. You have had a paranormal or psychic experience. You may have seen a ghost, heard others' thoughts, had dreams that became reality.
Yeah, this is spiritual awakening
Yeah,
again
this is
versus
awakening.
starseed.
Agree. You feel as though you have a purpose or mission, the struggle to find what you want to do with your life, though. I
Awakening.
am, that's awakening. Oh, this is a good one. And I do feel that this is star seeds because I, know some other. The physical limitations of your body often frustrate you.
Oh, for real.
I do think that's a star seed
It
thing.
is. It totally is.
So I like to blame this. I'm an extremely klutzy person. So klutzy. Like I fall over my own damn feet. And so when I saw this, I was like, that's why. Because I feel like I
Yeah.
should be as light as air.
Well, I also so this is what I'm hearing right now is when that happens, it means that your energy body is not fully anchored into your physical body. And that creates an off centerness where people fall down or get injured very easily. And oftentimes I would tell people used to tell me I should be wrapped in bubble wrap. It wasn't until I began anchoring my light body into my physical body completely and really being I am with my body that stopped happening. But um, I'm definitely a star seed, and then that's how I spent most of my life was I should have been wrapped in bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap. And this kind of goes with it. You feel as though you should be able to do more, but are vexed by your restrictions. This is because star seeds remember far more freedom in their physical form.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand, right?
You're used to having like instant and when I say instant manifestation, I mean like instant manifestation. You're used to everything being love and joy, and we come down here with this, we choose to come down here, right, and do this, but we forget we forget why we did it. We forget that we're here to bring the love and embody the love and all that shit, and we're like, this place is toxic.
So I'm curious too. I mean, this might be a completely different topic. I don't know. Maybe you can get some feedback. What about for the star seeds who just aren't waking up? Like, do they who are like might appear as like egotistical or so forth because they have these frustrations, but they just aren't? Is it possible to just go through this lifetime and be like, yeah, they didn't wake up on this one. Try again.
um
Like, does that happen? Do you know? Do you have any input on that?
well, so I can get like I'm getting two different perspectives, and the perspective one is that you'd be surprised how many people are awake who are in deep denial that that's what's happening to them, and some are even labeled with mental illness versus that
Mm.
they are awake, and then there are some that just choose because it is a choice you make, but from what I'm understanding is you spend a lifetime in resistance, and so
Mm.
you have a really hard experience, if that
Mm.
makes any kind of sense.
No, it does. It
That's
does.
that's what I'm getting. Um,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
I don't remember what we were talking about, so
That's
sorry. That
what
happens
happens.
sometimes.
I have very few friends, but those who are seem to understand you without need of explanation.
True.
I think that's true, but I kind of feel like that's part of the spiritual awakening too, is finding
Mhm.
the like-minded people. So you just find your soul tribe,
I
right?
agree with that for sure.
Your dreams are vivid and exceptional, and waking life never seems to measure up. Often your dreams will seem otherworldly, as though your mind has created a completely separate universe. Holy smokes, yes.
Yeah, I also think that's part of an awakening too.
Yeah.
But the star seeds, you do a lot more timeline jumping, a lot more astral traveling. In my opinion, I could be wrong here, so I don't know, but
No judgment here.
yeah, in my opinion, and what I feel just from my own experiences, is you do a lot more astral traveling and timeline jumping and stuff like that, because I do a shit ton of work in my sleep. And I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. Like if I could get all my work done in my sleep, it'd be even better.
Yeah. The night worker.
Yeah, the night
The night
worker.
worker. I know. I think they have a really important job, the night workers. I really do. And I'm fascinated with astral traveling. You know that I've done a lot of research on it and follow a lot of people who, are big on it. So I'm fascinated with it because I did it as a kid. I didn't know what it was. So that's something, and I think we just need to have a topic on that. That's for another time. We need to bring a guest on that.
This show right here is like opening up all the topics.
Adamant of getting. So we will.
Well, he will be in Florida soon.
I know he is going to be in Florida. All right. Others are often wary of you or feel uncomfortable in your presence. People instinctually know that you are different, but struggle to verbalize why. You may have felt isolated within your own family.
I feel like this is an awakening thing again as well.
Yeah. And I actually, I don't know. For me, I felt opposite. Actually, I had a lot of people around me, and I just felt isolated. I attracted, but that's not anything about being a starseed, I don't think, right?
No, I mean, I think so this is an aspect that I do want to bring in as far as a starseed characteristics. If you are a starseed, you will work with ETs. You will work with Christed extraterrestrials. And they will come easily to you. That is a part of, and that I know from my channeling of my own team is they will be a part of your collective. They will work with you because that is your closest family source, right? That is your main connection. So for me, it's easier for me to channel and work with ETs and ascended masters and angels and all of that. In fact, ETs will come before all of them than it is for me to connect with a past loved one. Even in the beginning, when they past loved ones used to come to me, because I kind of shut that down for a while, it was more difficult for me. Christed ETs became easier because that's my home connection, if you will. It's a weird way of saying it, but I'm used to that energy.
Well, now I'm going through this list and through some of the stuff I'm going here. I don't even know if I am one now. I mean, I feel like, because I don't feel as connected in that sense at all, which is fine. I mean, It is what it is. But I mean, can you only be a quarter? I don't know. Is it like a DNA test that you can take?
Well, I think
when
you talk about Blu-rays, I feel like, when you talk about Blu-rays or crystal children or rainbow children, they don't classify them like this, right? So it's a human thing that we come in and we label and we separate and we classify.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these type things that we're reading from right now that we're breaking down. So people would think, oh, I'm a starseed because I have all 27 of these characteristics. No, you're just awake.
Yeah.
And so I think that the Blu-ray is just more, you're more empathic maybe, or, I feel like we just label and separate, but that was the one thing that came through very strongly, was that you will work, and that can make you feel a little bit ostracized, because when you start working with these Christed ETs and aliens and things, and feeling the vibration of them and what they bring, you can feel ostracized in your family. I know I did very quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at these going, I don't really I resonate, but I resonate it more as an empath and someone who just woke up, not so much. I do have some things, but I don't know. Like, I don't feel that connection as you strongly do. And I don't know, maybe I'm just not awake to that. Who knows? I don't know. All right. So animals trust you and are naturally drawn to you. You understand them to the point that it feels as though you can communicate. The same is true for babies and small children. They find you fascinating and seem memorized in your presence.
Awakening.
Yeah, I feel like that too, especially since we just talked about it. Yeah. A lot of these I think are awakening. I don't want to even go through some of these. Let's see. From a young age, you question the ways of society and feel very perplexed as to how others don't see their mistakes.
Awakening, for sure.
Is that just an awakening, or do you think that's something, well, I guess it can.
Here's why I say that, and I say it so fluidly, just because you know what's coming from me anyway. You know what I'm about to be launching into. But also think about when you woke up. So when I woke up, I was pissed as hell. I
Mm,
was pissed at hell at why I would have chosen the life that I did. I was pissed at the way the world was working. I was pissed about how our government was running. I mean, the list went on and on. I was
yeah.
conspiracy, chemicals in our food, chemtrails, you name it. I was pissed about everything. And that's what happens a lot of times when we wake up, we're angry at like, why the F would I choose this? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? And you want to go fight the world's battles and you just
Yeah.
have to go back to yourself, So that's why I feel like it's an awakening.
And let me just tell you, there are dozens and dozens. This is just one list. Okay. There are dozens and dozens of these lists. And what we're trying to point out here, and what Johanna and I are doing, and it's not trying to down anybody who is writing this stuff, is that there is this need for people to want to know what's happening. So they start researching and searching the internet, and they find these lists, right? And they identify, and that's what it is. And that's why Johanna was saying
They
the
label
importance of,
themselves that way.
that's why Johanna's saying, you shouldn't label, like just whatever resonates with you in that sense. I am a firm believer that if you are, if you believe in it and you are questioning it and you still go back to it, it's there for a reason. If someone can tell you that something that's not, or you're not, like, if it keeps coming in your heart that you are, then embrace it. I mean, I'm not saying it like, I don't want to doubt anyone in that sense. I know from the journey that I am on, I have been constantly been told I'm not on that mission or so forth. And I'm like, no, that's not true. I just know it.
You are the co-creator of your reality always.
Yeah.
And you always are drawn back to you. And so even if you are quote unquote not on your mission as far as what maybe you were signed up to do here, you have free will to an extent. That's a whole nother topic that we can go into, but you are choosing your opportunity and possibility. You're choosing your pathway always. So you have to trust yourself. Don't ever trust somebody else over you, ever. And I think, Tanya, you are a starseed, but I also feel like you're very attached to the 3D still. And so you are in much resistance of it.
I am. I like the 3D. I have no problems.
I hate it. I'm just putting it out there. I don't like it at all.
I like it because I feel like my mission is to be down here to help the 3D people.
Yeah, but
and to bring them to other sources.
We all are to an
extent, and open it.
But we kind of have to embody that process.
Yeah.
And I feel like you will get there on your own time.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? And it might not be this lifetime. It might be the next. I don't know. I'm open.
Whatever. We're going to roll with it.
It is what it is. As I noted before, I'm evolving. I'm embracing it. We'll see how it happens.
Only be where we are. That's it.
But the reason I said I'm not so sure anymore is because I'm looking at these lists going, well, this is kind of like Johanna was right. This is awakening. This is not anything different. I can go down this list and go, this is what I felt an awakening. I don't know if this, oh my God, I need the certificate that I'm a starseed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me as a starseed, I knew. I mean, I was always looking up at the stars. I always felt like I was not at home. Even when I grew up, I had 2 homes as a child, and majority of it was spent at the second home until I moved out. And so it's not, I lived in the same town most of my life. It wasn't until much later in life that I ever moved across country. And I never felt at home. And there are still times today that I feel that deep ache in my heart that I am not home and I miss my home. And it's because when you are a starseed, and I also feel that it does depend on the amount of times you have come back and had this experience. I have not had a human experience a lot of times. It's only been a couple of times. And when you have that remembrance in your soul of how easy and how loving and how infinite acceptance and things are, and then you get seated into this constrictive, limited reality of structuring, it can be suffocating. And And that's how I've spent most of my life. That's how I felt most of my life. And it wasn't until I had that shift within myself through my help with my team and through mentors that the more I anchor my consciousness and my light body and my awakening into this physical body and become one with it, can I not, that's when I can help everybody else shift, because I have to bring that knowing into this experience. And that's what's helped me feel not so alone or not at home, because I can literally, it's like I'm bottling it inside this container.
Do you feel, and I'm not going to name drop people here, but do you feel that there's specific people that come in your life that actually help activate it even more to realize that, they could be, a starseed themselves, and you kind of just connect to them, and all of a sudden it's like a whoosh of information that comes through you?
Yes, because I'm one of those people. We call them activators. They come in and they don't even have to really give you the information, but they, just by being in their energy,
Mm-hmm.
they can help with activating the remembrance. Anytime anybody shines a light, we talk about activations. An activation is just somebody bringing light to something that already exists within you. An activation is not something that is given to you that you don't already have. It is a light shined on something that you already have within you. And by bringing that awareness or that light to that piece inside of you, it becomes active. You can't unknow something once you know it, right? You can pretend, you can deny it, you can reject it, but it's there. You always kind of know it, and you can't unknow it. So that's all an activation is. So anytime anybody comes into your energy, their energy alone can activate that remembrance, or if they shine a light on it, it becomes you. Now, here's how you know for sure. If that never goes away and that becomes so strong and prevalent in your life, and it becomes like literally that remembrance of like, wow, that feels like a memory, that feels like part of me,
Right.
then that's it right there. They've just shined light on something you forgot about.
Mm. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it is like all of a sudden you just have this memory.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But that's why we have mentors and people that we call them karmic connections, right? So
Mhm.
I always laugh and I used to call Tanya, I still do, the healer's broker, because she is such a connector, right? She has worked with tons of people, and she will reach out to have them, like, to do a service for them, right? Or to get a service from them, and she ends up doing a service for them. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she has to make those connections, right? So that this is part of her journey, is helping other people, by knowing where to send them and where they need to go. She's like, that director out there doing all these things, but she had to have all those remembrances within herself and meet all those people. We have
Yeah.
to kind of we're not meant to do this alone, but we
Yeah.
are meant to trust our own instincts as well.
And you're right. You did nail it on the sense, because it was creepy for me, because being I was a producer my entire career. Like, even as a photographer, I was a producer. I produced. I was always the person that knew somebody. Always, always. Anybody's you needed somebody to be like, "Oh, I got a guy for you. I
Yeah.
got a girl for you." So, yeah, it is that weird thing. But when you start realizing it and you start going, "Well, wait a minute. What's happening?" And that's why Johanna's laughing, because it was happening constantly. She's like, "Ugh, come on." I was like, "I'm not a healer. No, that's not what it, no, no."
God, a healer. There's so many ways you can describe a healer. We think of the traditional sense, a Reiki master or a
Yeah.
shaman or something.
Like,
Honey,
no,
there's
I
so
don't know
many
what you're
different
talking
types of
about.
healers.
All right. So people's first impression of you is often aloof or cold. However, once they get to know you, they consider you to be one of the most loyal people that they know, or loving people that they know.
I feel like this is a judgment and just people being triggered. I feel like this, you
Yeah.
don't even have to be awake to have that happen.
Yeah, right. And I also feel like the next one is, okay, ready? The next one, you avoid large crowds and find it hard to handle people in large doses, even friends. To you, people are overwhelming and their emotions and actions are chaotic.
Empath, highly
That's an
sensitive,
empath, right?
either one. And empath and highly sensitive are two different things, people. And that's a whole nother episode, but, and you can be both. But that, like I said, that's a whole nother topic. I mean, we could break down anxiety and going through all of that. That's just an awakening thing, I think.
I think this is an important one though, and I would like to get your thoughts on this. You have the ability to emotionally or spiritually grow much faster than those around you. Your sense more your sense of moral, how do you say that word? Or your sense of mortality keeps you grounded even when presented with emotions that are difficult for others to handle. So I feel like that's a big one because I don't know. Is there an advancement level that when they get activated that they, not that they are, this is the superior thing that's coming up. I don't know why this keeps coming up for me because it's not being superior, but there could be these shifts where they all of a sudden are like, they know their mission and they go, right?
It's a starseed thing.
That's a starseed thing, right? I feel like that is.
Not only that, but it is a superiority thing and an inferiority thing, because I've had this happen in my own life. And I've had people who have, been introduced to me and say, oh, well, she's only been, I can trace my awakening back to 2012, or maybe even 2011 on that cusp. But my intuitive senses didn't get awakened till 2013, 2014. And people will come in, meet me, and they've been on this journey for 10, 20, 30 years. And one of my first mentors, she was really triggered by me because it's like I woke up, I had my intuitive senses came online, and then it was like she was out the gates running. And it was like one thing after another. And once it came in, it's like, yep, I remember it. That's how it was. It became very easy for me. And it just kept going and coming. And trust me, my awakening has not been easy. And we have to go through stuff.
I feel like I have every like cycle, I have a new awakening.
Exactly. It is. Think about it. My process, I tell people, once you okay, let's just say you go from 4D to 5D, your awareness was this big and now it's this big. And that's what an awakening is, right? It's just a new awareness. So it's like, you're constantly going through these shifts. But she was so triggered, and I've had many of them. I've been doing this for 30 years. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 30 years and I've been doing it for 5 years. It makes no difference, because I'm going to do what you've had to do in years. Or sometimes I can do it in a week, but it's taken you 6 months. I am on an accelerated path, and I know that because everything in my life happens at freaking hyper speed. And I've been told, and my collectives told me. And so I agree. Starseeds were activated and we're put on an accelerated path. And let me tell you, it doesn't make it easier for us. In fact, I feel like it makes it almost harder, especially if we have any kind of ego attachment. Our life can go from really great to really shit really fast because we're so attached. And we're so trying to figure out what's happening, and we can't because it's going so fast, and we don't let go and trust. And then all of a sudden we hit wall after wall after wall, and we're like, what? WTF?
And I to bring it down, and not trying to say that it's only starseeds who go through this. I think also what happens in an awakening is when you have the shift of realizing, having this awareness or surrendering to it, that's when you can be pushed to your momentum goes and you can really just shoot out. And it's almost like you have these growth spurts, right? And these growth spurts can seem really, really up and down, up and down. And I think that from what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that these growth spurts that you guys are having are just to the point where it's almost like your physical body can't handle it.
It can't. I can tell you that right now. It can't.
So, So I'm curious, because I know from your past story, especially when you were going through your awakening and your body shut down, because, I had not a similar, but a situation where my body shut down as well, but yours literally shut down. Mm-hmm. And that to me was like a prime example of the starseed, just nope.
Well, and so there's two pieces of this. Originally I thought my body shut down because I was emotionally shut down. And I was misdiagnosed with a stroke, and I spent 3 days in ICU and 35 doctors. Nobody could figure it out because there was nothing happening. But what I know now is what was actually happening, which is happening to me right now again, is we call it a diamond light body integration. So you become more of that multi-dimensional aspect of yourself. It's an embodiment. And before I even knew what was happening to me, I was having this. And so what it mimics the symptoms of
Mm.
strokes and heart attacks and major physical body things, but the doctors will not be able to find anything. And so when we go through these huge, when you're a starseed, you're going to go through a diamond light body, multidimensional embodiment. You'll go through a plasma body embodiment. You'll go through these stages, and the integration can happen very easily. But what happened was, is I went to the hospital and I thought something was wrong with me, and they diagnosed me. And then all of a sudden my team was like, shut it down. They're going to cause harm to her. And the next minute they couldn't find anything wrong. So then I spent all this time with doctors going, what's going on here? And it went the total wrong way.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still going through things like that. I just now know not to go to the doctor. That's me. Don't, listen to your own bodies, people. I'm not telling you not to go to the doctor, but.
Well, yeah. And it's true. You're going to know your body the best and what does it. So I am not against whether it's metaphysical or not. That's what I found more, healing in the metaphysical world and holistic healing. No doctor could do anything. In fact, when I had a checkup for some of the allergies that I was apparently allergic to, half of them were gone.
Mm-hmm.
They had no answer. They couldn't tell me. I mean, I was getting tested for lupus. All of a sudden,
yours was like skin, right? It was skin and autoimmune. So here's what they tell me about this, which is, I don't know how you feel about this, but this is the perspective that they give me on clients that have come to me with autoimmune or skin issues, anything like that. I've had asthma and allergies and a couple other things. One is it's related to the vagus nerve. And two, it's, if you think about it, a higher dimensional body, it's way, way higher frequency. We're talking 7 to 12 dimension in frequency, is trying to integrate with especially if you're really in the 3D, into a 3D body that is a structure that is slower moving. It's going to cause major irregularities and sensitivity issues within your skin and your body. Your skin is your largest organ. So when these aspects are trying to integrate with you and trying to become one with you, you're trying to put something that's so high vibrational into something that's not, it's not going to be a match. There's going to be issues that happen. And this is when we start over medicating ourselves and doing all the things. And doctors are like, we don't know. And we do the test and blah, blah, blah. And you healed most of yours just through meditation and doing the spiritual work.
Yeah, I had to take the time to learn my body. I literally I have pictures that I drew of where the emotions are hitting in my body. And it's to the point now when those emotions or some come up and I'm near someone and I feel that, I know it's not mine, or I can, identify in that level. But I wouldn't have known that until I healed myself.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have known it. And it was really knowing what comes up in my body. And this wasn't anything. I knew nothing about chakras or that. I knew nothing.
You don't have to, honestly.
I didn't have to, because I was creating my own map. And that was the thing. I created my own map because I was tired of people saying it's this, it's that, try this food. Like none of that shit was working. None of it.
And that's why it's like there's so many tools we can use, but this is one of the biggest things that I did on my own, and why I continue to teach it to this day, is I took 40 days and I took social media out. I changed my diet completely. I took away all the additives, sugars, alcohol, any kind of chemical based food. Everything was pure. And I was still eating meat then. I meditated every day. And this was like very beginning when I didn't understand meditation. I just did it. And I journaled every day. Like I went on this full, every body, mental body, emotional body, physical body detox. And so I now tell people, you want to know, the best thing to do is learn yourself. That is boundaries. Boundaries is knowing yourself at 100%. So that anytime there's an energy intrusion, whether it's the collective or your child or your friend or walking in a grocery store, I know people that are medical intuitives walk by someone who looks completely healthy and they will drop to their knees because they're feeling the disease in their body. So it's a matter of knowing, just as she said, like knowing your body so well that you can detect anything out of balance. And it doesn't, because it's so disempowering when someone's like, your solar plexus is just out of alignment completely. Well, how the fuck am I supposed to fix it then? Like, what is that shit?
Fix this shit.
What is it? I mean, come on. No,
But
yeah, sure, your solar plexus is out of balance because you're holding on to a bunch of emotional crap. Like, let's just say what it is, people.
and
Sorry,
we
tangent
haven't.
over.
And here, listen, we're at this point. We've kind of got off a little bit of Starseeds, but it does bring a thing because do you feel that food has a lot to do with being a Starseed? Because I do
Mhm.
think that comes in play. Because
Whoa.
from this list, like I feel like this list really doesn't anything.
Uh-uh.
I think Johanna, maybe you can create a Starseed list for
Well, I'll give you my journey
not
with
your version of it, but like, can we
yeah.
talk about food in that? Because as you know,
Well, I'm very public about all the crap that happens to me and maybe to my detriment, but I don't care because I feel like people need to know this shit. And so here's what happened to me is I was a steakitarian. I was Atkins queen. I loved steak and meat and cheese and low carb style of eating. I am also an earth element, even though I'm a water sign. So traditional Chinese medicine would say that meat and cheeses and, more of those things are better for me. But what happened is one day meat started not tasting so good to me. And I was very resistant to this because I was like, well, I like my meat. And then one day it just became so bad that I couldn't even put it in my mouth. And then I went to chicken. And then that got so bad. And then it went to eggs and eggs got so bad. And then all of a sudden I couldn't even eat dense food anymore at all. And
you were basically on a liquid diet. I mean,
I went through about 6-7 months, maybe even a little longer, where I was mainly liquid, meaning I put fruits and veggies into a blender and protein mix, and I maybe got one whole one down a day, and then the rest of it was water. And then I slowly started bringing food back in, and today I can eat eggs, but they have to be completely cage-free, organic, really good stuff.
yeah.
Otherwise, I get super sick. And I even walk into a steak restaurant with my husband and my body starts vibrating. But here's why. And this is the part, because I was really in a lot of distress over the food thing because I like food. So when you are a star seed, and this isn't just star seeds, because I feel like the way that I know myself very well in my mission. So the way that I spread my mission is through light language. It is through my energy. It is through my words. It is through all of those things. So that means I'm going to be bringing a lot of light through my body, right? So not all star seeds will experience this to the extent that I am. But when you have density of food in your body, that light has to not only move through your own filters, your own emotions and attachments, but then it has to travel through food. And whether it's healthy, good food, because I thought at first it's just chemical ridden crap food, right? That's not going to be good for your, body anyway. But even when I noticed now, as the stuff I'm going through, if I eat dense food, it's whatever I'm doing becomes harder. Becomes harder on my physical body. And so it's very much a starseed thing because, sorry, you're going to hear my dog. You have to be, not have to be, you are a vessel of light and they need as much room to work because we are limited in a way with this physical structuring of our body. And so with what I'm going through at this moment, there are days when I eat and I pay the price. And then there are days where I can't even put water down because even water becomes too much for my body. But it's because I'm also going through this integration period. But you will, star seeds, absolutely. And I know this because of what my team has told me, is you will go through a major detoxing of your body and your food will shift. And as you become further along on your journey, you won't be needing to, we do not need to eat at certain times. We can actually go a full 30 days without food at all. Water is the primary. There are people who are working that are breatharians or using breatharianism. But one thing I've noticed is the less I eat, the more sun I need, because the sun is what's feeding me. And that's the shift that's happened. So the less I eat, the more I have to be in the sun, the more I need to have that being fed by Gaia and by the sun rays coming in. And everything else goes out the window. There's no diet that will help you. There's no certain foods that you need to eat. You have to listen to what your body says. And I know when I need to ground because I will literally want to eat a potato or anything that comes from the earth. because when I get super ungrounded, food is the quickest way for me to anchor back in. It's not the best way. I don't recommend it, but it does happen.
Food has changed a lot for me, but it's a matter of, learning of what nutrients I'm getting out of it. But it's funny how certain things that I have just completely let go of, and I'm like, I can't believe I even ate that. Like, I just don't like. I can't even. It doesn't even taste good to me. I have a hard time with sugar. Anything like I mean, I love sugar. Like, I love ice cream. Ice cream is my downfall, but I do feel like crap after I have it. So it's like,
think of it, sugar, even though sugar is considered a natural substance,
yeah,
caffeine, like caffeine is the hardest thing that is been to get rid of. And I've had to switch to half calf, but even with that, they use chemicals to strip the caffeine. So then I have an interaction with that. But those additives, we're already, especially Starseeds, we're already high frequency enough. You hop us up on sugar and caffeine and shit, we're going to turn into the Roadrunner.
Listen, like I'm German. Like, I love meat and cheese.
Cheese has been hard for me too. Yes, I still have cheese every now and then.
It just is what it is. Someone's just like, listen.
Here's another interesting fact, real quick, is that did you know that cows are higher frequency than humans? Cows are very high frequency beings, to the point where if you are, especially when you're not awake, it's why it's such a hard thing for the bodies to digest, even though it's dense.
That's interesting.
Yeah, cows are super high frequency. So it's not necessarily that the meat is bad. I feel like what I've noticed is that people who are more connected to doing mediumship readings of past loved ones. Now, remember, that's density. So loved ones are here. And then you go into angels, archangels, ascended masters, galactics, right? So those are all frequencies and or dimensions. So people who are just medium reading from benevolent beings or past loved ones, I noticed they tend to eat a lot of meat. They tend to eat a lot more dense food because they're working in a denser vibration. They can handle it. When you start working up in those star realms, that density, it distorts your connection.
That's a kind of a cool theory in that sense. I mean, makes sense. Makes sense of what we eat and what vibration or where we're ascending to, what level, what we're connecting to, because everything's done based on vibrations. I mean, so where are we at?
And that's why you can't say, like, because you wake up, it drives me crazy when people say, now that you've woken up, you have to go vegan. Do whatever the hell you want. Do whatever your body is calling you to do. I mean, I do probably get rid of the toxic man-made foods. But if you don't want to, don't do it. Like, your life.
Yeah, for sure. So I can't believe we've already been on for an hour. We didn't even get to talk too much about the races, but I do want to get into it a little bit.
Sure.
Because I feel like, listen, it can be really crazy. When I started looking at the alien races and I saw the list, I felt like I was in World of Warcraft trying to pick and select which character
there's so
I wanted to
more.
So many.
I've had ones that have come to me in the last 3 months that I didn't even know existed.
Like, and what I'm so curious about is because they have images, like, people drawings of what some of these beings look like and so forth. Like, I was looking at the blue avians. They kind of look like they look like Howard the Duck a little bit. They had like duck face.
It's so weird that's the one you picked, because I literally worked with a blue avian yesterday.
I don't even know what this means. So I'm like looking at it going, like, I don't understand. Like, where, like, there's just so many. How are you supposed to identify with them? Do you just know?
Well, it's funny because the first time a blue avian came to me, I didn't know what they looked like. And when I Googled it, there was a couple images that were off, but there was a couple that I was like, yep, that is what they look like. And it was crazy to me. And that just shows you, I mean, look at Avatar and all these movies. It just shows you how awake people really are.
Yeah. I think that the one I was looking at reminded me a little bit of Howard the Duck. Like, I just was looking at going, that's Howard the Duck. I'm like,
Is it the blue one that looks like he has, like, his body is feathers and he has a
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what they look like.
Yeah. The Octurians. I mean, there's so many we got here. I think there's more that are more common too.
Pleiadians, Lemurians are going to be the most common. They're humanoids. And here's the weird thing about that is I've had people describe them looking more like an Arcturian to me, where they look more like the, eggplant in reverse head and blue. But when I see Palladian, Lemurian energy, they look more humanoid. They look like they have piercing eyes. They look more human aspects. And then, I think it just depends also on, and I'm going to throw this out there because I feel like it needs to be said. Here's what I know, what they've told me is they will show up however you need them to. So if you are against seeing them in an alien type form, then they will show up another way because they have the ability to shapeshift.
Are these starseeds who are seeing these aliens, do they just know like that's an Arcturian, or do they go, I don't know what the hell I just saw, let me go onto the World Wide Web?
I think it's a multitude of things. I don't see the way that other people see. So for me, I can only give you based on my own experience. So I had to sit, and what I teach is to ask 3 times who's there. So if this energy comes in and maybe you see it or you hear it or you sense it or smell it, whatever, if you're clairsentient, ask 3 times who it is. If the name does not change all 3 times, then that is who it is. If it changes at all, it is not who it is. And you can ask them to leave. And it's universal law that they have to leave. You command them to leave, they have to leave. So I got used to an energy would come in. I'd ask who it is. And let's just use Kuan Yin for an example. Kuan Yin, however she would say her name. And I would sit and get familiar with her energy and find a way to identify it. So each certain beings, as soon as they come in, because I know my energy so well, I know their vibration, or I know some come with a scent. Some will come with an image. Some will come with a sensation through my body. It's a process and everybody's going to do it differently. But remember that spirit, their energy, they can shapeshift into anything they want to be. So even with that, I don't believe in dark entities, but what I do believe in is that what I do understand, to my knowledge, is that there are beings that have the best of intentions. And like fairies, for example, they have an ego. So they like to have fun and screw with you sometimes.
Fairies.
They do. And there's cosmic fairies and then there's elemental fairies. So, it's, you just have to, don't take anything for face value, like really sit with it and work with it. Like nothing happens overnight, people. It just doesn't, not in this reality.
You got to be open to things or what happens. So don't like go into like hysteria mode of like, what's happening there. I can tell you a personal story. Johanna knows this one because she was a part of it when I was very early on in awakening. I was going through a lot of healing, right? And I was meditating like a mofo, and I was started to do more automatic writing. Actually, you introduced it to me, and you probably don't even remember. So I was like, let me try some of this and so forth. And a lot of stuff that came up were specific words. And I was like, that's weird. I don't know what that means. I don't know anything of what that means. And one of it would be the color blue and the word ray. And it kept coming up a lot. And it was coming up to the point where it was so much in my face that I was like, Blu-ray. Like I remember I was on Xbox, I was playing my video game, I was just doing stuff. And I went online because I couldn't, and everybody on my friends list had Blu-ray, like they were watching a Blu-ray. And I was like, what the fuck? Nobody watches Blu-ray disc anymore. What's happening? And I remember I told you that story. And I just was like, I was like at the point where I was going like crazy what this word meant. I'm like, what's it mean? And then I looked it up, and it happened to be an alien race. And I just was like, what? What? And not saying that, oh my gosh, I'm like an alien now, but what it did is it made me do some research, and I looked at some of the list, and that's what we were mentioning earlier when I said, Johanna was, that's the problem with these lists. You can resonate with it. But what happened is it introduced me to certain aspects like language and certain people that I really resonated with in my healing, especially with music and tones. And it introduced that to me, and I was very open to it. And I found it very healing because I was like, well, there's an aspect to this that did heal me. I did do it. Whether it's activating me as that or not, I was fine with saying, you know what? I think I am. Like, that's what it is. I am. And so I don't really get hung up when someone says, oh, this is what it is. I'm like, well, how did it come to you? Because I'm like, so no one diagnosed me with it. It was just something that came about in my meditations, in my writings, my own head. It came out, whether it was channeled or not. But so many interesting things happened to that did line me up to it. When I was working with certain mentors and so forth, that it was coming up. And then when they would ask or something, I would be like, yeah, well, that's because, I have Blu-ray MA. So that wasn't me all of a sudden looking in, just identifying in that level. That was something that came out. So that's how I resonated with it. If that helps anybody in any sense when they're going, through this, or they feel that they need to do some research or something comes up in them. But that's why I was curious, Johanna, how you connect with them, because I don't, there's just so many races that I get so, I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can't even imagine what somebody who's very connected to the galactic world or universe and is getting these channels from these different beings, because from what I can see, they all have not specific missions, but whether they come down or not, it's like they all work together to some extent, but not all of them get along from what I read. So
well, I think that it just depends. I mean, we have had intergalactic wars, and we've had these things. I mean, they're really not that different from us. We're just having a different experience right now. But I feel like people associate, like when you were talking about the Blu-ray and looking it up, I feel like that's almost like a nudge to kind of go down the road of, or learn more about your multi-dimensional aspects of yourself and understand your vibration better. But again, we come back to, I feel like the Blu-rays, because I also resonate with the Blu-rays too, but it's because I'm clairsentient and I'm highly sensitive and I'm empathic. So I'm not just one, I'm all three of those things that are very connected to the emotional body. And Blu-rays are very connected to the emotional body. The emotional body is where everything manifests from, right? So we could be a student or a teacher of manifestation, which is a part of my mission as well, but in a different aspect than, say, Abraham Hicks. So, but again, that all comes from the emotional body. So yes, I can resonate with those aspects, but I think that we get drawn to certain things just to have, one, to feel a little bit connected and not crazy. Yeah. And two, to kind of bring us into that multidimensional space. But there is different races that, have different aspects, but it all comes back to, they're still filtering through their consciousness of whatever that is. They're filtering through their experience. It's not like they know more or better, or that what they say through a channel is, that's it. That's the only way it can be, because this being that I can't see or everybody else can't see is channeling this information. That's coming through their consciousness to you. And they don't speak, right? There's no words. So it has to go from their consciousness now through your consciousness, and whatever your beliefs are, whatever your 3D limitations are, whatever your hardcore beliefs are, it's going to have to filter through that. So everybody can channel differently.
Well, and how does this relate to the collective? I mean, are they within the collective at this point, or is
some
there?
Are.
Okay.
Yeah. More of the humanoids than anything. So the Palladian, Lemurian type consciousness, the Atlantean, are here more walking in form, I guess you will, but they are among us already, but they can't interfere. That's the thing. That's the one, because I've asked a lot of these type of questions. They can't interfere. They want to serve us. They want to help us. They want to be there for us, but they cannot interfere. They have to wait for you to ask for help, and then they can guide you. But this is just a big old game, really. It really is. And there are some people that are here to help us, and there are others who are trying to keep us asleep still, because you have to remember, and I touched on this a little bit in the channeling, I believe, if I'm remembering, but there are some that are using our planet as a resource, and that our DNA has been helped to repopulate their own race. And so there are certain beings that don't want us to accelerate, right? Because they have their own agendas. And then there are some that are really here, are cheerleaders and wanting to help us get to that space. So this is why I say, don't take anything for face value. Really trust your gut. Ask several times who you're working with or who you're communicating with, and trust that connection, because they can show up however you need them to. So if you're in a lower vibration, or you're really wanting to see this certain aspect, it can show up that way, even though that's not what it is. But there's even beings, races inside of Gaia, because Gaia is a sentient being and consciousness, and there are dimensions within dimensions inside of her. And there's a race in there. Oh my God, I just blanked out.
There's a race within Gaia.
Well, there's okay. Oh wait, they're here. They're coming in. It's so funny. Yeah, there's several, probably more than, like I said, there's been new ones coming to me, but the Mantis Collective, and they look like praying mantises, and they're super healing beings. And they really are teachers of grace. And those who follow me know all about how I am with that. And that, and they come in, and they came into me, and I was like, who are you? Like, I didn't even know you existed. And then to hear that they were,
I feel like too, because
in that dimension, I was like, are you lower than me then? Like, are you a lower dimension because you're in Earth? Like, there was that whole confusion. You know what I mean?
I feel too, with people who are very drawn to the sci-fi and, comics, all of that, the reason they're drawn to it is because collectively, even in a sense, some of the stuff has been channeled into certain characters or certain things that come up. Like I said, when I was looking at this list, I was like, hey, half of the stuff I feel like I've seen in a video game.
Right.
I was like, wait a minute, how did they get this? Oh, maybe that was channeled out and that's why it's coming through this way. So it was kind of interesting to see that. But where I was going with this is that with the amount of races that are out there, there's no way I can imagine that or fathom that we can know all of them to some aspect. But with, I guess,
there are major players though that are here to help ascension.
Yeah. So like that's what I wanted to get at, was that the ones that are recognized are really the ones that are helping the ascension process. And okay, that's really where I wanted to get with that, is because, and we're going to post a link in here. I know a lot of you had some questions on our YouTube. We have a couple people on here. We're asking more. They want to do research on these things. We actually have a link to give you brief for some of the main ones, or the main ones that help with the ascension process that have been recognized, and you'll see more on.
But just remember, Google can get you in trouble too. So, don't take what you read as the end all.
Yeah.
Let it be an energy of wonder and possibility.
Just let it open up the doors and then kind of go from there. That's basically how I did. I know, Lynette, you had said that you're drawn to the Blu-ray too. I just opened the door and saw what resonated to me and what didn't. There's a lot of stuff in there that didn't resonate and I didn't take it, So, but the stuff that I did resonated enough for me to heal and get through some things. And it was nice to know I had that connection. Yeah. So that's how I took it.
While my closest connection may be the Palladian race and Lemurian race, like I said, I've had more races come to me that I even had no clue, because we like you said, we have no idea. But people will come and show up and want to work with you for a temporary. I mean, it's this is something that I've experienced personally, and so in meditation, seeing different faces come in and go out and come in and go out in the same meditation. And what's happening with that is there are beings that will come in, whether it's a goddess or an angel or a galactic, and they're going to test your energy, and they're going to say, is she ready for me? Am I ready to work with her? Like, are we a good fit yet? Or is she still in resistance? And in that world, is this going to be not a good connection? So just as much as we want to work with certain beings, they come in and test to see if they want to work with us. So we will work with different people, just like spirit animals, it comes in at different points.
I was just going to bring up spirit animals, because I feel very connected to that. We're so on par sometimes. It's spooky. What I want to also point in there, and I didn't mean to cut you off, is that when this comes up where it's like, well, you know, how, like when you say you see these things, when Johanna says she sees, it doesn't necessarily mean that like, I mean, this is where I want to get at. It doesn't mean it's always visual. Okay. You can still see stuff in different lights. So whether it's auras, or if you hear things, or a vision pops up in your head, or you just know, or all of a sudden you're thinking of like a tree and you just know, that's also seeing. That's, you know, so seeing is not just visually walking around all the time. So I just want to make that clear, because I know personally when I was going through my meditations and pulling in, you know, or, you know, with angels or working with them, I was expecting to be like, well, where the hell is not showing up next to me? What's this about? You know, like, so like and even when I was getting messages, I was expecting to hear another voice. I didn't realize it was my own voice to some extent. I was like, oh, it's
I
like
did a
now this
whole
makes,
series on the clairs because just
yeah. And
that people think that it's going to be a voice that's not there.
yeah,
They're going to see a movie reel playing in their head,
I
and
think,
it's not the same way for everybody.
yeah, Johanna, I think you should point people to those, because I think that's a point of with the star seeds as well, is because people have this thing of like, okay, this is what it is and how I'm going to be seeing it or feeling it. But there's all different clairs that kind of go with it that help.
And
You
it's
know,
the people that it's so funny because I have a client and a friend who doesn't see, and her third eye is wide the F open and it's huge, but it's because we get these expectations of how we think we're supposed to see.
yeah,
And it's just not the case. So
yeah. I mean, people. I mean, with me, it's colors. I mean, ever I see colors. That's what I see. So like it's completely different from, you know, what someone else might be
right.
visualizing or seeing or so forth. And sometimes the colors just come in my head. I mean, I worked in a group with he was actually a medical medium, but it was a workshop, and we were talking about how we feel in a room. We're all looking at each other. It was kind of this group thing, and everyone was going, you know, pointing at how they felt, right? And I would be like, blue, green. And the guy's like, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, and then I had to go, and then I was really scratched. I was scratching my goddamn head in that class. And then like a couple days later, when I looked at it and I was looking at it and how I felt with those colors, I went, oh, it's what those colors make me feel. And then I went back. And so when I went back to the workshop and I did it, and I said green, and then I said to him, like, do you want me to tell you how it feels? And then he's like, yeah. And then I started to tell people how it felt, right? And then they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going through that or this. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I know why that's there. Like, it's like, I didn't know. Like, I felt so silly because I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go with it. Whatever comes out of my mouth. And I'd be like, blue. Green. People like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
See, right now, I smell Goddess Kali Ma. Goddess Kali Ma comes in with a very overpowering, fragrant smell. I work with the more feminine aspects of Goddess Kali Ma. A lot of people hear that and they're like, she's so dark. Well, I'm a shaman, so get over it. And Metatron's here. And see, Metatron brings the heat. And he also, sometimes people will watch me live and they'll see a purple or violet ray coming out of my head or going into my head. That's
Yeah.
Metatron. And he does that a lot. I think he likes to show off a little bit. But so there's different, you know, you just have to, the very best thing I can tell you and what I teach in spiritual development is, and this is the thing nobody wants to do, but it is the truth. You want to be advanced in communicating with beings or communicating with your higher self or getting over your anxiety or any of those things or working with different races. You have to know your energy better than anybody else. You have to know yourself
Yes.
completely. And that starts with going inward. And that means you have to look at your emotions and your thoughts and everything else. And that's the one thing people don't want to do, but that's the one thing that will open you up and accelerate you.
Yes, for true. So I think we got to wrap up here because we actually went way over, but you know, that's us. Like I said, we're going to put in the links in the description of that characteristics, like, you know, for what we just went over. And also the brief intros of some of the alien races. If you're, you know, just curious and want to look at what, some of the different races are that Johanna had mentioned. And like I said, some of these names, you know, calling in and so forth, sometimes they just come to you. It's not something that all of a sudden you just do research and say, that's it. Sometimes these names just come out. So don't be spooked out by that, like how I was with Blu-ray. So next week's episode, we have a very, this topic is on light workers, but I think there's an important message that needs to come out, and we're going to dive deep into that next week. I'm definitely excited. It's time to talk about it, but we are going to break down light workers and a little bit more than that. So stay tuned for next week.
I want you to think about it more of what's happening in the world today, because there's so much fear out there. And so, if you have any, if you are someone who is a light worker or stepping into that role, or even trying to know what to do with yourself in this time with all the things that are happening in the world, how you can play your part in helping it change, or any of that stuff, you're going to want to tune into this, because this is something that I've been nudged on, and she's been nudged on to talk about. So it's time.
Yeah. And in fact, Johanna and I did 2 separate videos that we didn't even know, on our own channels. Johanna did one on what is a light worker. I did on the ones on the types of healers. I think we should post that in our Facebook group on there too for next week, just so that for people who don't know what that is, because it's all going to resonate in this episode. Like she had said, with what's going on in society and, things that are coming up. And there is a lot of fear-based stuff coming up, and it needs to be addressed, because we're both getting this, we're getting slammed with it. And it's something that I think both of us feel passionate that it needs to come out.
Yeah, because often you don't know what to do. You wake up, you're like, all these big things are going on in the world. How can I help when things get dark? So, it's overwhelming, and we want to bring as much light and perspective to it as we can.
Right, for sure. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and spread the message. This is, we do this because we just feel the call to do it. So there's no other agenda here. And we would love to, for you guys to spread that love and help us reach as many people as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.